thanks a lot, everybody, for joining. We have Gandharva and Maha on the call today, and they are sort of the subject matter experts on the enterprise sales. Briefly about EthAum Venture Partners, we are a deep tech accelerator based in Singapore. We have 56 startups in a portfolio. All of these are AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, robotics, AR, VR kind of startups coming from different parts of the world, different stages and sectors. We as an accelerator are highly focused on enterprise customer acquisition for our portfolio startups. And that's the reason that when we take startups in a program, we are focused on B2B startups that are at the post-pilot, post-revenue stage. And we want to make sure that when we are taking startups in a program, we are able to help them with customer acquisition, because this is one of the biggest pain points why startups fail. We know that more than 65-70% startups fail because they don't have the product market fit, because they are not able to solve the right problem statement, or they don't have the right solution for the problem statement that they are trying to solve, or sometimes they are not even able to connect with the decision makers in different organizations. They are not even able to have that right kind of discussion with the stakeholders. And these are the reasons why more than 65-70% startups fail in the startup ecosystem. And we are trying to change that by putting the focus on enterprise sales, not on shining co-working offices or on millions of dollars or something which is not so relevant. And that's the reason that we are having the discussion on enterprise sales for startups through channels and system integrators. Now, obviously, there could be different thought process that, hey, why don't we hire probably 10 salespeople by, after raising $1 million, so that we can, intensify the sales efforts. And then there could be a different thought process, different method, which is, why don't we partner with system integrators, other ISVs or resellers and channels, and work with them to bring the enterprise sales. So obviously, there could be a lot of discussions about these topics on how to do the enterprise sales, especially when you are a startup, a young startup. And that's why we decided to have this panel discussion with the experts who know everything about this, about the subject. I have Gandhrava Kohli with me today, who is Vice President, India Alliances at Tech Mahindra, sitting in Delhi. And I have Maha with me. She is Vice President, Global Pre-Sales at Cloudflare. And obviously, Gandharva at Tech Mahindra might be working with a lot of different kind of startups, solution providers, ISVs, and then helping his clients innovating and finding the solutions for their problem statement. And Maha is also doing a lot of interesting sales work for Cloudflare. Cloudflare used to be a startup a few years back, and now it's a big organization. So she has seen different kind of journeys, and she is also part of one of the VC firm as an LP. So now I'll stop talking and I'll let the experts panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll get into question and answers or the panel discussions. So Gandharva, why don't we start with you? Please, your introduction.
Thank you, Pankaj, and that was a very big intro by saying that the panelists know everything about the subject. No, we don't. I don't claim to know everything about the subject. Yes, being in the midst of it, there are some observations which I have, which I would love to share with everyone. I have about 2+ decades of work experience. I'm by education an engineer and MBA. And after that, I've been primarily in IT sales, worked with some Indian as well as American MNCs. A lot of my career has been in the IT security side, build business. I worked with a company called Internet Security Systems, which got acquired by IBM. I worked with Symantec. And in the Indian MNCs, it's Wipro, HCL, and now Tech Mahindra. In between, I've also done a small stint of trying to start up an organization in the field of B2B sales for industrial supplies, actually. Unfortunately, it didn't. So I have the experience of failing, so I can tell you what not to do to fail in them. So, yeah, thank you. That's my that's about me.
Thanks a lot, Gandharv. Knowing what not to do to avoid the failure is also very important. So thanks a lot for that. Maha?
All right. Morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Maha Pula. I'm actually based out of Boston, so it's morning, so you should pardon that salutation. But I'm also of the same opinion that when Pankaj said, set us up very nicely. I mean that it set us up very nicely as being the experts. I also want to be, very clear is that we don't know everything, but I think we may know a little bit of, of how to work and sell to the enterprise. I work for Cloudflare, run the global pre-sales team. I joined Cloudflare actually 12 weeks ago. This is my 12th week at Cloudflare. Prior to that, I was at Akamai, and then prior to that at BMC. I've done the little bit of a roller coaster, being at startup, got bought out, being at a startup, went IPO, and being at a company that went private. So I've seen quite a few of the types of exits, and also many of the reasons why companies exit into a different stage, right? Or go back in their stage of evolution as well. And a significant part of it has to do with selling to the enterprise. So I think I can share a little bit about those exits and why those happen, and sort of what triggers those to happen, good or bad, but change to happen within organizations. And then also selling to the enterprise is something that's all I've done my entire career, is selling into the enterprise, and also to see what kind of challenges as a leader that is supporting the sales team into selling into the enterprise. So those are the two perspectives that I'll most likely bring to the table. And more recently, I've started working as an LP at a early stage VC, and that also has introduced me to a ton of challenges that startups have had and founding teams are struggling with, is in setting up their GTM. It's like, who do they hire first and why? What's going to be how I'm going to maximize my investment? So those are some of the things that I'll most likely bring to this conversation.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Maha. Really appreciate your time. So let me start with my first question. When we talk about the enterprise sales, everybody talks about the complex and long sales cycle. You might be looking for 10, 15 different approvals from different people or stakeholders in the organization. You might be looking at 6 to 9 months long sales cycle, right? What are some tactics to make that sales cycle more efficient with the enterprises? Is it more about connections, knowing the right people within the organizations? Is it more about working with the system integrators or some partners, or what else? So why don't we start with Maha first, and then we can get Gandharv's insights on that.
Sure, I'll keep it brief. Is that selling to the enterprise is a different ball game than selling into a SMB company. You hit upon the first thing. You said you're buying to an army, you're selling to an army of people, right? And Gartner came up with an analysis about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, that said that the buyer cycle has changed from, where you could sell to 3-4 buyer types, right, within an organization, or buying team within an organization, to 15 to 17, right? So you've just now tripled, quadrupled the complexity, the number of people first that you need to sell to, right? That has changed, right? And then now it's been the buying cycle is also, the marker where a company engages with a vendor has also shifted right significantly. And what does that mean is that it is most of the buyers are doing a ton of research. I mean, if you've ever bought a car in the past 10 years or 15 years, and I probably ran through like 15 cars already, right? The thing is that, the first time I bought a car a long time ago to my last car buying experience in December, it was like I bought it in Mars and I'm buying it on Earth or something. It was such a radical difference. It's because as a buyer, I am much more informed. I actually went to the vendor and I said, I came for that black car that was sitting in your parking lot, and I know exactly what's in the car. And I just basically said, he said, all right, this is the price, and there's no negotiation. You just sign the contract and he does all of his paperwork. And then literally 1 hour later, I was driving my car out. The previous time it was like pulling teeth. So what I mean is that the selling cycle, the buying cycle, the buyers are a lot more well-informed. They come with most of the decisions being made. So Gartner also set that mark, it must have been Forrester. So please don't attribute it to one, or the other. They did the research. It said that the mark has shifted to 70% of the research is already done by the buyer prior to them engaging with a vendor. So you're already dealing with a vendor type that's a lot more well-informed. Now, this becomes even more complex when you have an enterprise, right? And so there's sort of two things that I find as a bit more area where you can be efficient, whether you're a startup or an enterprise, is ensure that when the customer first engages with you as a vendor, that you have given them everything that they need when they come to your website, when they're looking for information, when they're looking for, you're not even engaging with them. They don't want to talk to you, but they come to you looking for information. And what's your biggest real estate that you have available is your website or your online presence, right? Digital marketing has become just the name of the game. Every CMO is now a digital marketer. So you've now got that shift, like the 70%, like, can you give them all of the information that they need well ahead of time? And that's actually a very efficient process, I say. It is equalized to selling for whether you're a large enterprise or you're a startup. Why? Because it's digital assets, right? To create those digital assets, it allows them to learn more about you, to know that, they may not even know behind the digital presence, whether you are a startup or how many customers you have, because you have such a massive digital presence. So I find that that's one of the biggest areas where we've seen the shift happen, and where whether you're a startup or you're a growth company, that you can make your presence felt well known. I will stop here because I'm sure there's stuff we want to be sharing over the rest of the 45. I don't want to lay all the cards on the table so soon. And I'll leave Gandharv some time to share his insights.
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, Pankaj, you want me to go?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So thanks, Maha. As she rightly said, digital presence is an amazing tool which can help startups. The barriers earlier were much, much higher. You had to prove yourself at that time. Today, or come cloud computing, and I'm being a little specific on, like, startups can be in any field, but I've been on the IT side, so I relate a little more over there. So if it's a IT organization, I think one thing which is very important for startups to know is what role do they play? Okay, what are they selling, and to whom they need to sell to? What do I mean by that? At times, we make a solution and we think this will change the customer's life, and he's waiting there for us to take that solution to him, and he's going to be, his life is going to change. So obviously, it's not that way. You could be the main solution, or you could be a part of that solution. So very important to know where do you fit into the overall thing. Now, again, being cloud computing era, where collaborations become very big, with all the cloud service providers, they have an ecosystem which has been created, that you can see how you can fit into that ecosystem, whether it is a SaaS player or an infrastructure as a service player. So whether it's AWS, whether it is Google Cloud, whether it is Microsoft, they all have programs where you can, where you can list yourself on their marketplace and reach to the customer. Coming to the system, or similarly, whether it is Salesforce, or whether it's ServiceNow, or whether it is some other SaaS provider, they will also have this ecosystem over there. Now, coming to the system integrator part, you can, the organizational structure is generally pretty complex over there. So it is very important for a startup first to research that how is a system integrator structured. Okay, there will alliance, for example, I take care of alliances for India business. Now, there are multiple SBUs within Tech Mahindra, which is strategic business units, various competency business units, various vertical business units. Okay, all of them, and then there is a central or global alliance team. You need to see where you fit in over there, and if you can target the right person and you're able to help him solve his problem. Everyone has problems, please believe me, everyone. But at times what we keep doing is we keep thinking that this is the right person. If I crack him, my problem will be solved. But at times, but you might not be targeting the right person. So reaching the right person within the organization, whether it is in the competency or whether it's in the alliance team or whether it's in the vertical business unit, is very important. So that I will leave it over here, Pankaj.
Fantastic, Gandharv. On Maha's point about the digital presence, actually, and this is one of the tactics that most of the entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs and VCs talk about, that hey, as a founder, you have to be a writer first. If you are not writing Medium articles or on Product Hunt or on on LinkedIn and different kind of platforms about your solution, then you are not reaching out to your audience efficiently, right? And that's why writing the articles, coming up with the right material for your audience is very, very important. And also on Gandharv's point, AWS and Microsoft are not only to provide the credits, cloud credits, but they could do way, way more than that. If you are able to get your solution on their marketplace, then that's a miracle, because then there'll be an account manager, there'll be people who will be pushing your solution to your customers, and there'll be customers who will be looking for a solution on their marketplaces. So that's why getting listed on one of these marketplaces is very, very crucial. That helps reducing the sales cycle. My next question is about the struggle of startups selling to the enterprises, right? I mean, as a big organization, you may have probably 10 people in the sales organization selling one particular solution to one customer, right? But as a startup, you have just one person or probably two people selling to that particular customer, and you don't have a well-defined sales mechanism, right? So I would love to hear from you how startups can sort of fine-tune their sales process when they are selling to the enterprises, and what are the areas that really cause that failure to sell the enterprises? Gandharv, what are your thoughts on that?
I very rightly said, Pankaj, it is difficult at times to sell to enterprises. I think but with technology, it's become easy also. I'll talk about digital presence again, what Maha had said. Four things in a sales cycle. One is the demo stage, one is the POC stage, one is the pilot stage, and one is the production stage. So I think startups, depending on where they're in their maturity cycle, if they're just starting to acquire customers, demo stage becomes very, very important. If in case they can create very good demos which customers can see on their own, and with targeted marketing using social media, if you can reach over there and you can tickle their senses in terms of, if in case they are in the right segment and they view your demo, and then you give them a follow-up by saying that I can do a POC for you if you like this demo, and make it very easy for them to connect with you to do that POC, and POC followed by a small pilot. That could make the cycle pretty easy so I think today if we want, it's become much easier for us to reach out to the customer through this targeted marketing and the tools available over there. But yes, these could be some levers which a startup could use.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Gandharv, on that. I would like to actually come to the next question with Maha. So, talking about the channels, obviously there are channels like AWS Marketplace or Microsoft for startups and so on and so forth, right? But what are the other channels that startups could use to expedite the sales cycle, and how those channels could be really crucial for the startups? Could you please talk about that?
Sure. Yep. Right. So, actually, we should have just swapped the question. Gandhar coming from the channels area, but I can definitely speak to it. Channels. When we traditionally say channels, we're looking at system integrators, right? We're looking at partners. But channels can come from many different areas. So we'll talk about channels as broadly anyone that is going to help you get your word out can become your salesperson for you, right? So for startups, it's a challenge, it's a double-edged sword. Because you need the integrators and you need your channel partners, but they're looking at you and saying, who are you, by the way? I have no idea who you are. You're too small. You don't have that, thresholds of customers for me to really even determine if you're stable enough for me to be able to go and put you out there and put my reputation on the line by putting you out there alongside with me. And this is why what Gandharv said early on, which is having a solid, we all know about the evolution of startups like an MVP, but that's just not, that alone is not going to be enough. Spending and investing your time in building a solid product which can scale, because enterprises is all about scale, right? And they will be very supportive. There are some enterprises that just engage with startups as a priority because they've once been one, so they know what it is to be one. So there's a lot of culture of supporting startups within your environment. And so you may be able to identify those and become, make that your early wins. The other thing is that, I know that as a startup, you'd want to go and work with the top tier partners, right? But you're small, understanding that, start small, right? Identify regional channel partners that can put some skin in the game. I find that even though we are set our eyes on the Tech Mahindras and the Wipros of the world, it's like they're also, they're not a nonprofit, they're a for-profit organization. They need to, they are working with organizations that have a proven track record, that have, a solid solution that they can go to market with, that fits the customer's, deployment topology. So you may, and our reference architectures is like they work a lot before they put a vendor in front of their customers, right? So there's a lot of work that needs to get done, and startups really don't have all of those people in-house to work, and engage with a partner. So when we say channels, I'd say that startups, especially in the markets that they want to be in, probably have to focus a lot more on regional partners. And even with the regional channel partners, there are also some that are technology partners versus that are, that want to put in services. And this is also the double-edged sword. I said it's a good thing or a bad thing. You, as a startup, may not want to seed the deployment to a partner, right? But then you don't also have the resources because you take selling resources and put them into deployment. And as a leader that supports pre-sales resources, I'm telling you, it's a bit of a challenge when you're in a startup environment where you're going to take very smart sellers, technical sellers, and then throw them into the deployment because you don't have any post-sales people. So then what happens? And you're met with the challenge of, do I take this valuable resource and put them into the deployment and make the customer successful? And then who's doing the selling? Well, the same person. And you sort of, why do burnouts happen? Because we're doing 2-3 jobs at the same time. And so those are some of the reasons why I think from a channels perspective, being part of the marketplace is magical. If you can build a compelling solution and you can be in a marketplace, that will just turn up the selling to a higher degree. But then not relying on just that alone, and also going to some of our regional partners and to be able to build those alliances. We'll call them alliances rather than partnership, because at that point it's a very, very tactical thing. Like you're aligning with partners in the local region, either because they are industry, a domain specialist or industry vertical specialist, right? And that can then give you a little bit of a leg up to say, well, if you are going after the financial services industry and there's a small but a very, very deep partner in the financial services area, then it behooves you to go and work with some of them. And then also based on the markets, because they know the market conditions. We also found that governments, local government agencies also offer a bit of a leg up, depending on which region you are in, also offers a lot of leg up to startups. They open up, doors for you when you engage with them. And it's actually very, very well kept secret. But there are countries that will help you, that'll help you bring stuff up. For example, like, I work for a international company, but let's say that I want to open up a market in India or Singapore. The US government has departments of commerce in these countries that their main job is to help US-based companies open up markets or reach into markets in some of these other countries. And they don't discriminate based on size. They're not looking at you and saying, you're a 5-member startup, you're a 10-member startup. Their job is to help their native companies open up markets in the countries that they're in. So it's actually an underutilized way in which that we can reach out into other countries that you may want to be, growing your customer base in without having a physical presence in that particular country. So those are some of the things I've found and seen the startups that I've been in have leveraged, or sometimes not leveraged, but I find out quite a bit later that we should have, we've missed an opportunity to do so.
Thanks a lot, Maha. And I'll actually take your recommendation and I'll repeat the same question to Gandharva as well. But with a small addition, how to find these channels and how to sort of figure them out that, hey, this is the right channel or not. That's also a very difficult sort of exercise for the startups. So please go ahead, Gandharva.
Yeah. So the twist you added by saying that, whether it's the right channel or not is a difficult one. You have to be in it to figure out. So just to add to what Maha, and as she rightly said, these channels will expedite the thing. They're not the only thing which are going to be there. So to startups, I will say the initial few customers, you need to maybe get them directly. Don't depend, because the channel, as she also mentioned, channel will also see whether there are any successful implementations over there or not. Are there customers who are happy with you or not? So even if you get a few of them, it is very critical to get them first before you go to and look for channels. These channels could be, as she was also mentioning, government bodies or industry bodies. Industry bodies at times can become a good channel for you. They might not sell, but they might take you in front of the customer. So it could be a automobile industry body, or it could be a generic industry body. I have more reference for India, so I'll say CII is an industry body in India, or a FICCI or IMA. These are industry bodies which can put you in front of the customer over there. Consulting partners are other ones. Okay, so if you know that consulting partners are generally focused on doing the premium work. So when I say consulting partners, these could be your EYs of the world, PwCs, KPMG, Big Fives, or the smaller ones per se. But again, they are more interested in doing the top layer of a project. Okay, they look for partners who can support them, who are flexible, who have the capabilities, who have niche solutions which can aid their. So see if they do, if your solution or products fit into which can help them increase their profitability, they'll do that. SIs we had already spoken about. Telcos these days are coming out to be great channel partners, for software solutions. They are reaching out because ARPUs are falling, and telecom companies are wanting stickiness, and they are entering. So the fine line is, especially with the cloud coming in now, the fine line between IT, cloud, telco is all blurring a little over there. So those are, they have a set audience. So maybe not the largest of enterprise, but definitely mid-size enterprises is what one can target with telcos. Large size enterprises with SIs and consulting partners, and initially, maybe when you're going to acquire customers directly, you can target SMB customers over there. So it's a step-by-step approach. I would put it that way for a startup. Don't worry, don't get fixated about that. I need a large customer only directly. First, create your base by saying, okay, let me acquire 5 small customers. The moment I have 5 small customers, I'll go to mid-sized customers. The moment I have 5 mid-sized customers, I'll go and hit the large customer over there. And then accordingly, you can choose your channel, when to go with which one. The regional resellers, maybe you can target after you've acquired 2-3 direct customers, go work with regional, as Maha had mentioned, regional channel partners. See, they are interested because others don't give them high margin. So if you can give them high margin for your initial sale, that's your investment over there. He might be interested in selling your solution vis-a-vis some. When I used to work with Semantic, I used this mantra very well. You know, I said, I want to be the most preferred. Fortunately, that wasn't a startup or whatever. I should not be using the word fortunately, but that was not a startup. So everyone knew about Semantic, but I had very tough competition. It was McAfee, Trend Micro, Semantic, you know, and there were other smaller players. But just by giving a couple of percentage points extra and giving some incentives to the sales guys of my reseller community, we became the preferred choice for all the partners and resellers. And they wanted to, they would go and position our solutions before they would position competition. If we would say that we are already working with somebody over there, you know, then they would go and talk about some other solution over there. So these were small tricks and tactics which we used at that time. Yeah,
that is actually fantastic. Incentivizing resellers, or especially the regional resellers, a little bit more, so that they are excited to sell your solution. This is a fantastic tactic. But also from my own experience while working with our enterprise startups, I have figured out that telco companies are becoming really desperate for working with the startups and taking them to their customers. So I think telco could be fantastic resellers. Similarly, consulting companies, even PwC, Deloitte kind of companies, they're also looking for fantastic deep tech solutions. So they could be amazing resellers and channels. The third channel could be the cloud distributors or cloud solution providers. So this is another thing that I have figured, that there are a bunch of cloud distributors of AWS, Microsoft, or GCP and others, and they are also very much willing to take startups and then help them acquiring customers. And interestingly, these companies also get incentives from AWS or Microsoft or from GCP when they are bringing enterprise customers for these startups, because ultimately then this customer and the startup will use AWS or Microsoft cloud services. So that is also becoming a really good strategy.
Just to add to that, sorry, Pankaj, the one point, Intel has a great program. You know, a lot of people don't know about this. They work a lot on innovation. So they have people who are dedicated towards getting innovation into the market and incubating them. So people can look at working with Intel also.
That's a fantastic insight. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Gandharv. Now, I would like to see if there's any question from the audience. If you have any question, you can unmute yourself. If you are shy, you can probably put your question in the chat and we'll take the question for Maha and Gandharv. So I'll give probably a few seconds to the audience to ask questions. If not, then I'll continue with my questions. Please feel free to unmute yourself or type question in the chat. Les, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. This has been really insightful. Thank you so much. And so I had 3 or 4 questions which you've actually answered. And so one of my questions was, at what point, building from the ground up, is it sensible to go after channel? So, so in my own, I have 0 experience with channel. I've always been direct. I'm an enterprise seller. So I don't know much about the channel. It's something I know we should be doing. So in my own mind, I was thinking 5 or 6 customers. We're at 3 where we've got 2 or 3 big brands on eval. We're punching well above our weight, but it's hard, as you say, very, very difficult. So that was one of my questions. When's a good time to go to partners? And so you really sort of validated what I thought was probably right. The other thing that how you mentioned, I hear this mentioned a lot, which is, buyers are 70% or 80% through their buyer journey. Not when you're in an emerging category like us. So when you bring something new to market, there is no buyer journey. They don't know that something exists, right? So we do this thing called deal pursuit and coaching software. Now, every talks about sales coaching, every talks about sales training, every talks about CRM. We are literally in an emerging category as conferred by Gartner, which is helping, but we haven't got many resources, and so it's trebly difficult. Not only are we a startup with just a few customers, we're also trying to educate the market as to this new thing, right? Because those of us in this room that do enterprise sales, if we're honest, no, we're still using a lot of sort of 90s pencils. We're still asking sellers to fill out Millihan and blue sheets and jump on a deal with you. And it's like, what? This is 2021. And so, so we still have to do outbound because we're still trying to educate the market. And so this has just been so super helpful, and particularly, knowing that there are specific corporates that are incentivizing helping startups like us do business with enterprises. So that's something I'll definitely be looking into. That was just really helpful, and of course the telcos. So I would just want to say thank you so much for this, and you've already answered my questions, so I'll shut up now.
Thanks a lot, Les. We have another question on the chat.
Pankaj, just a small observation over here on what Les was saying. Les, I don't know what your category is, and emerging is one of the toughest to do because you have to tell that there is something which exists. But if in case you've got it right, that is where the change happens. Amazon started with a book, selling books over there. Today, they have, they have changed the pace of IT today. Nobody had thought that anybody could move Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, Cisco, and it's AWS which actually came, and they're eating up into everyone's space over there. And they came very subtly. They came subtly, but they did not use the normal channel. Everyone in the IT company was focused on CIOs. They went to the board and they picked up a problem which was a huge problem, but not a recognized problem for the industry, which was delayed start of projects. Which was, if you wanted to start a new project, the buying cycle was around about 6 months or so, and buying and deploying, and then launching the project. They just collapsed it into, a few days and went ahead. And so just an observation and a comment over there. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Les. Thank you very much, Gandharv. I don't know if Maha has anything to say on that.
Thank you, Les, for those compliments. I think Pankaj should be complimented for having all the right questions ready for the audience. The one thing I would say is that if you asked what is the right time to engage with a partner, and the thing is that there's never a right time. The day that you've conceived of a product, it's day one. That's when you need to be thinking about who else can I build my ecosystem with. It's because you said you have 3 to 5 buyers, 2 to 3 customers, right? Sellers and 2 to 3 customers. And the question is that when will you ever scale? When will you reach that scale when you're going to start engaging with partners? That's a moving target. So I'd say identifying is keeping your eye open, engaging with partners, however small they are, engaging your channel, understanding what moves them, how they sell with, how they co-sell with, what is their business model. Those kinds of things has to happen alongside your go-to-market design. for the first year 1, year 2, year 3, and you start to continue to shift that one. Whether you engage with them in a real selling cycle, that may be a point in time in your evolution, but engaging with their channel and identifying who they are, what is going to motivate them to sell with you, and getting them familiar with your technology, even educating them for free, even if they're not co-selling with them to a customer base. I think those will be, you seed them, you invest in them, and then you wait for even a year or 2 before that results in a co-sell customer. That I'd say would definitely one I wanted to just add there, Pankaj.
Thanks a lot. There's very interesting question in the chat: how to effectively manage the enablement of channel partners when there's constant change in roles and responsibilities and change in the technology, product, and so on and so forth. Which is pretty interesting because channels are used to see a constant product that doesn't change for years. Now with startups, things are changing very rapidly. Your thoughts on that?
All right, I can go. So
I must say, Maha, that's your pain area.
Indeed, right? Indeed. Yeah, you guys are sitting nicely. You're like, hey, I need enablement. Like, tell me more about your product. Who's going to invest in me? So I've in every organization that I have been in, including where I'm at Cloudflare, this is my #1 question that my channels leader always asks me. It's like, Maha, we need to invest in resources. We need to invest in, certifications. We need to invest in co-selling with them. We need deal support, opportunity management support. We need account management support as well. And then I go, well, okay, this is like you were talking about engaging with every seller type in the channels partner. But the fact is that is true. You have to. You cannot throw a product over the wall and tell the channel partner, go sell. They will to the best of their ability, but you want them to be as well versed in the solution as your own sellers are. In fact, sometimes a wee bit more. And what do I mean by that is because internally within an organization, a seller type has a lot of support. They can call the phone and pick up the phone. If you're in a startup, anywhere 100,000 people, you'll be able to pick up the phone, call your CEO and say, I need you to hop on a call. And you know what? The founder or CEO will most likely hop on a call with you, right? And that brings a lot of impact to the customer conversation. Now, as a channel partner, they don't have the ability to have your CEO hop on a call, your VP of engineering hop on a call, your VP product management hop on a call, or even one of your engineers hop on a call. So remember that's enablement is going to be key to having a successful channel relationship. And so the way I've looked at it is that I will enable my internals, pre-sales engineers, and account managers exactly the same way as I would enable my channel partners. Whatever enablement programs are available internally, your onboarding programs, your certification programs, all of those should be also available to your channel partners. Do not make that an afterthought. So anything you build for both internal and for external people. And this will take away the complexity of having to build something specific for the channel. You may say, well, I've got a lot of internal kinks that the product need to work out of. Trust your channel partner to be able to help overcome those. Be very transparent with them around, hey, avoid these use cases as you engage with your customers, because this is areas where we're continuing to build our roadmap for. Right? You may not have to open the kimono and tell them exactly what the issue is, because they may not have an exclusive relationship with just you. They may well be working with other vendors like you. So you may don't want to give away, all the competitive disadvantages that they may leverage later. But at the very least, tell them avoid these 2 use cases. And these 2 use cases, we are the best at. So go after customers that may be aligned with it. So these are things that you may have to really go to your channel partner, engage with them and enable them on. So of my 4 pillars that I have for my go-to-market, enablement is key, and that includes enablement for internal and for external ones. And honestly, if you were to really invest your time in engaging with channels, And that would be the biggest area where I would put the investment, is hire a channel enablement leader within your own organization to be able to work with them. If, as Gandharv said earlier, if that is definitely one of your biggest areas of go-to-market with, then make that investment ahead of time and wait, because it'll take time to yield results.
Yeah, so totally agree with Maha over there. Enablement is very, very important and the key to success. Just to add to that part of the changes in role which is happening, Navneet, I would say, just apply, I don't have a definitive answer for that, but I can tell you what tricks come to my mind. You can say, if you have digital presence, you can say, we'll put you as a certified partner on our website only if you have X number of certifications or trained resources with you over there. The moment this number goes down, we'll take off your name from our website. And so, you'll have to work on those kind of things, or you can say, if till the time you have, I don't know how much fund you have. Are you a funded organization or a bootstrapped organization? So if you have some fund, you can even go to the extent of saying that I'll give you X number of dollars every month if in case you have 10 resources trained or certified on me on a consistent basis. So they are happy to do that, because that's additional dollar coming over there, where they have their sunk cost of their technical resources is anyways there, and they are on their toes to maintain that, because if they don't, their inflow will stop. So depending on what funds you have or you don't have, you can use those tricks to I shouldn't be calling them tricks, but yeah.
That's all right. That's perfectly all right. This is unfiltered conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, Maha and Gandharv. I have just a quick follow-up question, maybe more deeper insights, if you can help with. Because the problem that we see is enablement part is, yes, taken care of. You build the digital channels, learning programs and things like that, which is fine, works pretty well. But the challenge what we see, especially with the large SIs or the GSIs, the way it is called now, people move internally or outside of the organization too frequently. So by the time you enable a new set of people, when they are up to speed and actually delivering the results for you, but then probably just maybe quick enough, soon enough, after 1 year, so they shift their roles. And when you have to start again building up from grounds, that is where the challenge lies. And that is where, we see there is a blip. When you see a lot of opportunities coming in, then there is a sudden dry. Again, it moves to the opportunity phase. So that is the challenge which I was referring to in terms of constant change. Because by that time, you also have the technological update, but you have to start with ground zero with the new set of people and processes. So that is what I was referring to. So if you have some more comments, I would appreciate that.
Right, I'll jump in, Gandharv, if it's okay. This is really where virtual selling comes into play. You want to get to a point of time in a product evolution, and I'm not talking about putting our channel SIs out of business. But what I mean by that is the SIs themselves are moving into a more higher strata of engaging, right? Those were the times 10, 15 years ago when there was a lot of integration and deployment sort of resources that the SIs were hiring. And now they've themselves have found out, and Gandharv can confirm that, is that you moved into a more managed, they're managing more of the design and architecture and innovation within these large organizations have stopped becoming more of a resource augmentation. So they're also not interested in doing a lot of that, nitty gritty, because they become low margins and there's a tremendous amount of margin pressure. And a lot of countries are also very much against some of those resources going out of the country. So, the SIs have already evolved. And so as vendors, as developers and designers, our job and responsibility is to make a product easy to onboard, easy to adopt. So in the conception stage itself, you should be thinking about a self-service customer. And why is this important? Is this becomes really critically important as you're enabling your partner and channels. Is if you're investing in a resource, it's not to talk about how to use the product. The product should be ready to be used by anyone who's willing to adopt it. I think where the channels will really come into play is top of the funnel, identifying customers and use cases that you're going to need, because you don't have a very large BDR or LDR team that's going to go and source those customers. So for them, you may see a little bit of the churn happening, which is, that's the market. The market is super hot. There's never a time when the market was never hot for resources. So this is a constant in our own evolution. But if they're going to be bringing someone in to support you, if a channel partner is bringing someone in to support you, I'm hoping that you were engaged in the hiring of that person, right? And what I mean by that is if a channel partner comes and says, hey, I had these 5 resources, 3 of them are moving to a different project or a different division within my own organization, but these 2, plus I'm going to be bringing on 3 more. You can ask to engage with them and say, well, can I be part of that conversation as you bring on the additional 3 people or 2 people or even 1 person that you're going to be bringing in to support me, that helps you get a little bit of a leg up over who's going to support you. Let's say you are in the data sciences or data analytics area and someone brings in someone from a CRM area. Similarity, there's like data, both, but they may not have the deep knowledge that you may need to make your customers successful. So you may say, well, can I look at a couple of other resumes within your own organization that may have these capabilities, just like you're hiring your own SE or a seller type. So that's one way in which to sort of get a little bit of a leg up on the enablement of your channel partner resources that are supporting you. The second part of it is that if you're relying on them very heavily to make your customers successful, that could be something you may have to take a couple of steps back and determine if your product is self-service ready. Because irrespective, you do want to have a lot of freemium self-service customers that are going to be, that are going to not need a lot of resources to be able to engage with your product. Those 2 I've found that have areas where 3 vendors ago or 3 companies ago, I have not, we were relying very heavily on our partners, and we found that was a bit of a challenge. But more and more recently, now I'm at Cloudflare, we have a 4 million customer base. There's never going to be a time when we're going to have enough resources to support 4 million users. And so our product is always self-service ready, which makes the reliance on our partners to be more on making the customer successful once they've engaged with a solution to expand, land and expand type activities. And that becomes fairly simple. So I'll stop there and I'll let Gandharva if he has any closing comments on that one. Yeah.
Thanks. You were on the spot with it. It's a huge topic, Navneet. It's a very complex topic, what you asked. And we can connect offline and brainstorm on it. That if that helps you, I can do that, because I don't think we have enough time to do justice to that topic at the moment. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Navneet, and I'm sorry for twisting your question. Now, I don't know if there's any other question from the audience. If there is, please feel free to unmute yourself. Or type in the chat. But I had just one last question, and I know we are running short of time. How to find influencers that can really help you expedite the sales process within the organization? Is it through, again, through channels or through different kind of personas in the organization? Quick sort of thoughts on that.
Sorry, can you just repeat that question? I
was trying to understand more about the influencers that can help expediting the sales process within the organization. So how to find those influencers?
So I would put it from my learnings, you don't know where the influencer will come from. Okay. Of course, it could be, if it is a win, if you know what will make the person look like a winner within his ecosystem, within his organization, and if you can tap on that, he will definitely become your influencer over there. So finding that is something which you will have to do. The question you have to ask yourself when you're talking to a particular person, whether it is the finance department or the HR department or IT department, will this make him, will this thing, what I'm telling him or working with him on, make him a hero in front of his boss, in front of his organization? If yes, he will become your influencer over there. If no, then please go to somebody else. That's not the right person. So Maha, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, you hit upon that, and we call them the champions, right? Like identifying the champions. Every sales methodology comes with its own version of it, but every sales methodology, whether you're a sprint selling, solution selling, whether, any of the other, Sandler, oh God, it's ages ago, but, or if you're looking at the more newer version of it, like Medic or MedPick, right? Any methodology that you look at outside that's out there talks about that one core aspect is developing champions. But the question is like, how do you identify champions? Is that the person? And we always get very, very flattered when someone asks us a lot of questions, right? And then we tend to give them everything you've got. And then you find out that the person just goes silent at a crucial moment when you're asking them to introduce you to the economic buyer or someone. And then you realize that person was just either kicking the tires, learning more about your product, was maybe your competitor's champion. And so you just realize that you've just been taken for a ride. But most likely, you've spent a lot of time investing in a person who has absolutely no political power within an organization, is not an influencer within an organization, does not even know who the EB is, and the EB doesn't know him or her, which is the scary part. Everybody knows the EB, but the EB needs to know your champion, right? So I've always found that it's very, very useful. LinkedIn, LinkedIn Navigator, get those subscriptions. Those will tell you a lot about these people, right? If you are investing, you're planning to invest time and resources with a customer, a role within the organization, look them up. I mean, most people leave a digital footprint all over the place. I work for a company like that, right? So like most people leave a digital footprint. They were active on LinkedIn. They may be engaging with people on LinkedIn. They may be writing blog posts in a similar article. Those will kind of give you a little bit of an insight into who they are. And even if they are not, if they are an economic buyer type, right? They're more on the financial side, right? They may be speakers at industry events. Like there is a lot of insight that a person that you're engaging with can tell you. And then you will also know what influences them, right? If someone were to sell to me, and I do get a lot of inbound calls from vendors that are selling it, they look at my profile and they just think that I'm going to be able to buy a CRM solution. Little do they know that they have not done the right research to say that I am an influencer in a CRM solution, but I'm not a buyer, right? Sales ops is the buyer. So knowing your domain, who's influencer and what reason, and so that when you engage with them, there are not a lot of vendors that I respond to, but only some that I responded to. As in the case when Pankaj reached out to me, it was the fact that I'm an LP in a VC firm. And for me, this conversation is beneficial for me as well as it is for you. So to identify what is it that, how to use the right words and terminology as you reach out to them is a thoughtful exercise. It is not a random exercise. Definitely not a random exercise. It's not a show up and throw up type of thing, or it's not a crapshoot, as they say, right, in seller terminology. So understanding what a champion is, what influences them, what kind of investments have they made in the past, especially as you sell to enterprises, a publicly traded organization. Tons of information out there about what is motivating them and what are their challenges over the next year for their own growth. Those kinds of things can help you identify who your influencers are. So I'll stop there.
Fantastic, Gandharv and Maha. So I think the summary is that you have to do a lot of research. You have to go with the right crisp messaging, and then you'll have to understand who could become hero by pitching your product internally. Again, thanks a lot for your time today. I know 1 hour is nothing. Probably we could talk about this for hours and hours. And but yeah, again, really, really appreciate your time today, and hopefully Cyrus will be able to connect with you later, and will be able to learn more from your experience and insights. Again, thanks a lot.